Good afternoon. This is Pastor Carl with your weekly update for St. Peter's United Methodist Church for Friday, September the 17th, 2021. I invite you to come worship with us this Sunday morning. We have our traditional worship service at 8:30 here in the sanctuary. We have our blended worship in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock. And at 9:45, we've also got Sunday school meeting in person. Now, if you want to worship from home this week, you can certainly do that. We are offering our 8:30 service by way of a live stream, which can also be viewed later in the day. And as we get into next week, know that we are worshiping here on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock for our midweek communion service. That will also be live in person and live streamed on YouTube. So we hope you'll join us for that. I want to share with you this afternoon some words from Psalm 57. The psalmist writes, "Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me. For in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I will take refuge until the destroying storms pass by. I cry to God Most High, the God who fulfills his purpose for me." 3 years ago this week, Hurricane Florence came through our community as a major storm. Florence brought with it rain that was measured in feet. It brought wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. Florence brought so much damage to this area, and it brought our entire community to a standstill for I don't remember how long. But you know, that weekend, we still had church. We didn't have any air conditioning in the building, and it was hot. We didn't have any lights, but we had church. We didn't have a working sound system. We had no bulletins. We had nothing, but we had church. Most of us had been unable to shower for several days. We stunk. The building stunk because of all the water that had gotten in, but we had church anyway. We gathered in the sanctuary to sing praises to God, to hear his word read, to hear his word proclaimed, to share personal testimonies of how he brought us through. And folks, it was one of the most powerful worship services that I've ever experienced. And anybody who was here for that service 3 years ago would probably agree. Florence was different than a lot of hurricanes. In a lot of ways, it was a lot tougher than others because most storms show up and they're usually over in a number of hours. Florence hung around for a couple of days, so it could wreak a lot more havoc than a regular hurricane. But in spite of how bad that storm was, God got us through the storm. And that storm did not prevent us from worshiping him. Yes, worship might have looked different than it normally does, but we worshiped because that's what we do. We're a church. We're people who love God. We're people who love each other. So we come together and we worship. This pandemic that we're in, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Hurricane Florence because it's like a storm that doesn't seem to go away. And it's not letting up anytime soon. But this storm of the pandemic has not prevented us from worshiping God. And it will not prevent us from worshiping God. So whether you're coming here to the church in person or you're watching online by way of live stream or YouTube, we are still worshiping, and you can still be a part of worship. We can gather, whether in person or across the internet, we can gather to praise God no matter what. On that Sunday after Florence, like I said, worship was very unscripted. It was not how we normally worship. But what mattered that Sunday was not how we worshiped. What mattered was the fact that we did worship. And as this storm of the pandemic continues to rage, well, we're going to continue to do what we've always done here at St. Peter's. We're going to worship God. Why? Well, number one, God is worthy of worship and praise. And that's why we worship. And number two, worship is what helps hold this church family together. So we hope you will join us for worship. This is Pastor Carl reminding you that I am praying for you.